It's time to roll the credits with Chris and Wayne. Welcome once again to Roll the Credits with Chris and Wayne. I'm Wayne Pyle.
And I'm Chris Ty. And as you probably know by now, we are the official video podcast for the Hunter Mountain Film Festival, which runs from October 23rd through the 25th and is completely online.
Make sure you also check out all of the other great content we have online at huntermountainfilmfestival.com. Hey, Chris, do you know what this is? I'm going to play it for you. Just a second. Listen.
Okay. I think that's called the singing bowl.
That's right. It's a singing bowl. Okay, hold on just a second. I have another one. I'm going to play it for you first, and I'm going to ask you if you know what it is. Here we go. Hold on just a second.
Hey.
Is that a didgeridoo?
That is right. It is a didgeridoo. That's one name for it, but some people call it a yidaki, and I'm going to show you how long it is here. It's hard to see on the camera, and I actually have it. I painted it myself. Those are actually the hyena shadow puppets from The Lion King. Those are sort of my spirit animal there that I painted this with. And it's a traditional instrument that's been played for well over 1,000 years. And some cultures use the sound waves and vibrations of yidaki and singing bowls to heal people. I'm not trained to use them myself, but I do notice that when I do play them, people seem to get calmer and more contemplative. And perhaps there's some healing happening at a deeper level than I realize.
Well, I feel calmer already. And you know, our guest tonight has worked as a healer using sound for quite some time. She is the co-founder of the Sage Academy of Sound and Center for Healing Arts in Woodstock, New York.
Yes, she is. Her name is Lea Garnier, and her work is fascinating. She's worked in the healing arts for over 25 years, and she's an established practitioner in that field. She began her journey as a painter, with her healing art having been displayed and sold in Europe and the US. And then she found craniosacral therapy in New York City after suffering neck and back injuries sustained in an auto accident. But the relief she found from this work was so inspiring that she put down her paintbrushes to pursue training as a craniosacral therapist and a certified yoga instructor. And as you said, she co-founded Sage Academy of Sound and Center for the Healing Arts in Woodstock, New York.
Lea is also a student of the shamanic arts, which inspired her ongoing interest in therapeutic sound for healing, which led to the organization in 2010 of one of the first annual comprehensive sound healing retreats in the Northeast, the Sound Healing Retreat Intensive.
Mm-hmm.
Lea facilitates weekly public sound baths for the community and offers sound healing for private ceremony work, weddings, and death passages. Lea Garnier, we are very pleased to welcome you to Roll the Credits with Chris and Wayne.
Welcome, Lea.
Hi. Thank you guys so much. And oh my God, Wayne, that was a fantastic opening. And did you know, though, just so you know, one thing about the didgeridoo is that they used it to actually heal broken bones.
Wow.
So
Really?
next time somebody sprains an ankle around you, whatever, just break it out.
I really do notice that when I play it, people do seem to get very calm and really it changes the vibration of the room whenever you play it. So I'm really fascinated by what you do. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. According to your website, Sage Academy of Sound and Center for the Healing Arts is committed to what you say is a gentle and respectful approach to healing through sound awareness. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you became interested in the healing properties of sound and how your work in sound awareness is kind of part of that process?
Well, as you mentioned, I did start out as a craniosacral therapist. So my background is in the therapeutic arts. And I was exposed to sound in ceremony work that I did working with plant medicines and herbs, I don't know, I guess about 10 years ago. So I had actually a profound experience with a Himalayan bowl, which is the little bowl that you played in the beginning. And maybe I'll talk about that later a little bit more, but it really was profound for me. And I was then inspired to, well, actually, I'll just say what happened to me was I had the feeling that my heart was like just cracked open when I heard that poem. And we never realize when we're in when we're on a table getting healing work or sitting in meditation, doing healing work, how much how contracted we can be. So I would just say I felt like there was a shield on my heart. I didn't know that was there. Some people would also call that a closed heart. I didn't call it that, but that sound just pierced my heart. And I was like, how could a sound have that effect on somebody? I never felt that. And so I just thought, well, there has to be pioneers that have studied this work, that it had to be a modality. It was just, an instinct to follow that trail. So basically, that's what my ex-husband and I did. We set out to find pioneers who were working in that field, and that facilitated a huge study that I'm still very much, immersed in, because I'm just as in awe as anybody else when I'm listening to a sound, and I guess the next thing that happened was with the frosted crystal bowl, and I had this feeling that my whole body decomposed. I was like, what? Wow. So, yeah.
Well, I think I know what you mean, only because, I'm simply fascinated by just the simple sound of taking a fine glass and wetting it, and do that thing where you're ringing your finger around the top, and the vibration of it, and the fact that I can even create that sound. To me, I'm just amazed by it. But as a student of the shamanic arts, you've been inspired to create sound healing retreats, like a gong camp, a class called the Yoga of Sound, and a sound healing certification program. What do those entail, and how do people get involved if they're interested?
Well, so usually before COVID, because now everything is pre-COVID, right?
Right.
Well, first of all, right, it's my whole business is an in-person business, right? As life is in person. So the certification program is really a certificate of competence program, I would say, just to get people versed in how to play a sound healing instrument, how to bond in a group, because it's always a retreat style training. So people come in, they completely leave their lives, and we're always healing self and others whenever we play sound tools. And usually it's a 3-day weekend, and we focus on specific areas each weekend. So the program usually runs from May through October. First weekend usually begins with ancient shamanic studies to the science of sound. And we focus on tuning forks, and mainly because I have John Bollier, I consider him the father of sound healing in the East Coast. He's brilliant, and he's probably one of I have so many important teachers, but he is somebody that can speak about sound from ancient perspectives to the science, and he's done so much with the study and science of sound. He's also an artist and doctor, so he has quite a range, as you can imagine. So he's always kicking off the program, and then usually we bring in, after that weekend, the second weekend is more of an intensive that is focused on shamanic studies. And that's usually with Tito de Rosa, who's also what we call a curandero de sonado from Peru. He's also a grandfather. And he comes from Peru, and he stays the weekend, and lots of other things happen during that weekend, but he's definitely the main teacher. And he teaches us how all sound is, all sacred sound tools really are, have a spirit coming through them. So, he'll pick up a flute that he calls a grandfather flute, and he'll start walking with it, and then he suddenly turns into a grandfather. When he plays the flute, this is grandfather energy that comes in, and the grandfather is like, he's lived his whole life, he's made his mistakes, he's made his amends, and he's hopefully nothing but happy. So he's bringing that sound to whoever needs it in the room, and he always knows who needs it. So that's part of the, that is part of the training. Then we move into crystal bowls for a weekend. That's a whole thing. Gongs and Himalayan bowls, which I call the sacred metals or the heavy metals. There's so much to really learn and absorb. It really is endless. So my program really just tries to focus on the fundamental principles of sound, but also so people can go away with some real protocols. So the protocols really focus on how can I use this on a one-on-one basis with a person? How can I use this in a sound bath setting? How can I bring this in a yoga class setting? Well, of course, 2 of those settings are taken away now. So
right.
I've actually added how can we use this in a Zoom class setting?
Right.
So
yeah, we're missing that contact. As you were speaking, I was reminded of a theater group that I actually worked with in grad school, the Hart Theatre Company. Are you familiar with them at all? They do theater of sound, and one of their original teachers, well, Roy Hart was their original teacher, but his original teacher had learned from hearing people in extreme states of either of stress or of ecstasy, noticing that the human voice could actually access all octaves of the piano and below and above. So they actually trained in this way of accessing these sounds that we don't usually make. And part of their idea of theater is to make these sounds as part of, and so it's not a traditional sort of like you tell a story and you follow a through line, but the sound itself is part of the story, which I found really fascinating. And it was really amazing studying with them. I'm sure you've had many teachers and have met some really special masters in your field. Could you share with us a story about a particular person or learning moment that had a big impact on you? I'm sure there are many, but is there one that like comes to mind that you'd like to share with others?
Well, I guess I was thinking about that question, and of course, there's many moments, but I think the biggest teacher for me has been the sound tools themselves. I'll just give you an example. Well, first, the Himalayan bowl. Like again, that to me, the Himalayan bowls are really considered ambassadors of peace. Like that's their job. They're not here to break up energy or to move energy or any of those other things, but they're here just to calm us and. I mean, look at your little bowl.
Yeah, this was not something I got for this interview. This has been on my desk the whole time. I keep this right here next to me as a way to stay calm and remind myself of what else is out there.
It's true that there was a prophecy that said that it would be one reoccurring chord or sound would come and heal the world. And these are drone sounds. And the reason why they're so important is because when we're listening to a drone sound, the mind, which is very smart and very active all the time, it can't latch onto it because it's not pentatonic, it's not do re mi, it doesn't know what's coming next, and so it lets go. The mind surrenders, and then we have the experience of merging with all that is. Then we have an experience of our true self or consciousness, if you want, whatever you want to call it. But when the mind shuts up, boy, there's a lot of peace.
Yes, there can be. It's hard to get it to shut down though, right? Or to be quiet, to be peaceful.
Well, that's what the sound does. That's, if that's all the sound does, from my perspective, it's doing its job. I mean, it does many, many other things, and that's why we have trainings, and everybody has different experiences that are very profound. But I want to say that what I learned, what was such a defining moment for me, besides the Himalayan bowl and what happened to me with the frosted bowl, was when we got in these crystal pyramids, and we had no idea what they were for. We just got them in, and they just started playing them very softly, and it started to make this really unusual sound. And I want to say it was almost like a spaceship sound, but I felt transported by that sound. It just felt like it was a higher sound. And then of course, you look at the shape of the pyramid, and pyramids come to a point, and that could represent the mind or higher mind, and the triangle in our yogic studies tell us that the square is a symbol for the earth.
Hmm.
So right away, you have this idea of reaching for the heavens, right? Our enlightenment, if you will, while being grounded. So we're at actually Ananda Ashram, which is, I don't know if you know Ananda Ashram. It's in Monroe, New York. It's a beautiful, one of the first ashrams actually in the country. And it is a Nada yoga ashram. Nada is another word for sound. So it is the yoga of sound and sound practices. And there's something about spaces also that have been infused with, esoteric work or spiritual works over time. So that place has been there since the 60s, all kinds of spiritual masters coming through and so forth. So your senses are going to be raised in a place like that. Because vibration, in a sense, it never really leaves. It can stay in a container. So those masters, those gurus, when they die and you walk in and you're like, whoa, you still feel their energy.
For sure, yes.
That's kind of what the energy is like there. So we were doing a sound bath, and it was filled up, and then the sky comes in, and he's late, and you could just see he's like in his head, and his hair's all greasy, and we're just like, okay, just like we get him a spot, we lay him down, and then the sound bath is happening, and I went over and I brought that pyramid over to him, and I just started playing it behind his head. Because you never play sound tools over anybody's face. That's always number one. Let me just say that if anybody's thinking about picking something up, it's always behind. And I was right at the crown of his head, and I saw this flash of purple, crack out of his head, off the top of his head. And this is also called synesthesia, when you have a visual experience of sound.
Right.
And so right there, I knew that crystal pyramid showed me what to do. And afterwards, the guy came up to me and he was like, oh my God, he was like, what did you do? When you came over with that thing, he called it that thing, and he was like, oh, I was just having such disturbed thoughts. And I just, was feeling so grounded. And then, when this pyramid, played, it was, it was just so beautiful, and I feel so great, and I feel really clear, and I feel like my crown opened, and I connected with, with something higher than myself. So, that to me is a shamanic experience of a sacred sound tool, guiding the show. Like you're just a conduit for that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Well, visually, you brought sound to us in a beautiful way in the form of Garden Icaro, which is the film by Patrick DeWarren that I guess you wrote and performed in.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful and moving invocation for all sentient beings on this sacred land to rise and persevere, which is very pertinent in our times. Please tell us more about the film and what inspired you to create it?
Well, so the Icaro, again, with that singing bowl, that's a handheld singing bowl, was also around ceremony time, when I was doing the ceremony time and working with plant medicine, and it was showing me how to open my voice, my own voice, this bowl, singing bowl, right? I had no idea that we were supposed to sing into them. Again, we had no idea, what do we do with this stuff, but then they show you. And what can happen with a handheld bowl like the one I'm using in the video is that you can phase with that sound. So your voice can merge with the sound of the bowl, that sound merges with you, and you become one. So I was having that experience many years ago with the bowl. And one day I was in my garden, and I received that melody, which is another name for an Icaro. And it really is when the plants give you a song or a melody when you have done a certain amount of healing at a certain point of your life, and you're ready to help heal others. And it was just something that kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And I, like I'm not a musician. I didn't say, oh, it's time to record a CD. I was approached by somebody who, heard the song and heard my music in my yoga classes. And she was like, I'd love to produce you. And her name is Kara Pugh, and her husband produced that CD and that particular song. When Patrick heard that, and Patrick is a longtime friend, we go back over 25 years, and he's a brilliant filmmaker, as anybody who has seen the film knows. He's also, an amazing photographer, and just has lots of experience. And he, when he heard that song, he was really moved, and he wanted to do a video. And at the time, it was about 3 years ago, he was starting to experiment with the drone technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we got together actually with him and my partner at the time, Beth, who passed, unfortunately and suddenly, but the three of us decided to try and make a video out of that Icaro. And she had this beautiful garden, which was shaped like a star, this huge 5-pointed star that she builds so that she could communicate with the heavens, because she was an astrologer. So she wanted the planets to see, this star. And we just all thought it was so beautiful to try and merge that, because the Icaro is very much it is from the land, it's from the plants, it's from the elements. And we just thought, what a great collaboration. So we did start it, and Tracy Bohnam is playing violin on that. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's just a fabulous musician and Grammy Award winner. And just added such a beautiful melody to the song. She was a part of it, and but then he kept crashing the drone.
Oh my!
I mean, but it's a learning curve, you got this technology, and and you'd be like, oh no, it'd be stuck in a tree, or
Oh my. Well, it is really beautiful. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Scenery is incredible.
Yeah.
Well, so what happened then, okay, so then he finally got, he got the technology down, and, he got the drones. And when COVID hit, we were both like, oh my God, this is there's nothing else to do right now but to create,
Right.
In times like this, let's just use our creative energy. And he felt like he mastered the drone, and he was totally ready. And I don't think he was even living in the area at the time we started, but now he is. So we just felt it was such a great time, and he chose the locations. He directed the whole thing. He just did a brilliant job. He knew exactly what he wanted to get. We had to get up at the early dawn and at the right light. And I was just like, after 10 minutes, are we done yet?
Right. Yeah, it takes a long time to put it all together, but really the collaboration, it's so beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing it with us for Hunter Mountain Film Festival's opening ceremonies. I think it's just going to be an amazing and healing way of opening the festival. And you spoke about the pandemic and the sort of upheaval that's going on in the world right now. I was just curious, do you have any advice for people who might be watching this right now, who are just seeking some kind of peace or solace in this unsettling moment in history through your practices or through another lens that you wanted to share with people?
Well, I mean, we have to always remember we have to adapt, adjust, and be prepared for anything in this realm, in the realm of anything goes. That's what I call it down here on Earth.
Right. In the realm of anything goes. Yeah. And that has been being proven almost hourly in this year, in 2020.
Isn't it? I mean, it's crazy, but my teacher, John Bullier, I'll just say, the one thing he always drives home, and this is such a guy full of mastery, but it's so simple, practice. Even if it's just a minute every day, it doesn't have to be long. It just has to be something, So if you're sitting like you with your little bowl, and you just hit that bowl 1 minute in the morning, 1 minute in the evening and you're thinking good thoughts, what you're doing is you're actually in a state of neural plasticity, which is causing the neural networks to change and shift and help us adapt with these changes. Because a healthy state really is our ability to stay grounded in the midst of such change and such chaos. And that's really what true health is. So, a lot of us are just feeling anxiety and fear. And, a lot of that's just the mind, isn't it? Just like going, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Right.
You're not
what if this, what if that? Yeah. A lot of the mind taking us places we may not want to go. But I hear what you're saying about that moment of practice. And something I've learned, not only during the pandemic, but also just in my own journey, is that, like you said, it can just be a minute. You don't have to go, okay, oh, I didn't do my hour of meditation, or I didn't do my hour of yoga. That little bit of practice is still practice.
It is.
That's what I hear you saying. Yeah.
Yes. And that's all that counts. And, you can take a couple of tuning forks. That's what John, that's his thing that he's invented. So, and it's simple. You take them anywhere you go, you hit the C and G, and, boom, you're like, you're grounded. The mind's, relaxed a little bit, because when we're relaxed, that's the only time that we can come into a place of wisdom, peace, and calm, or solace, So this means getting yin, like, we got kicked outside, really, didn't we? Out of our houses, out of our offices, so that we could connect with the land,
right.
with our ancestors, and remember who we really are. We're just a part of one of the kingdoms. We're not the whole kingdom. So,
right.
So we're really lucky. 17,000 people moved up to Ulster County from out of the cities. I don't know how lucky we are, but
yes, yeah. The other weekend, we were trying to go to our very secluded hike that we usually take, and we're like, it's not secluded anymore. What happened?
I know.
Yeah.
But you said. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say I'm experiencing the same thing on my favorite. I'm like, what? But it's okay.
We have to share. We have to share.
Yeah.
I know, you go on a hiking trail, you feel like you're in Walmart. It's crazy.
Well, it hasn't been that bad for me so far. Walmart is a whole other. That's a whole other experience. That's when
I was curious. You said you're not really a musician per se, and I'm not myself. And I'm just curious about when playing some of these instruments, like a didgeridoo. You don't necessarily have to be a musician to be able to play them to get the desired result, right?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because you know what? Actually, that is one of the biggest things we're healing when we talk about sound healing. There are so many people who have been traumatized, in their young age, being told you're singing off key, lip sync over there. If you don't possess the language of music, which is really complicated, then you feel like you're not a musician. So I always argue with all these musicians. They're like, you're a musician. I'm like, I'm not a musician. I'm not a performer. I'm a transformer. We don't, the difference is we're not in it for entertainment. I think the West is the only, the only countries that really use music for entertainment. I mean, in ancient ways, it was always for healing. So with all that being said, that's why it's really important for people to heal, that everybody can learn how to rim a bowl. Everybody can, but I believe I've also had people who can't rim a bowl. Right. So that's why we have to have trainings.
Right, exactly.
You really do have to show people, like, don't hit that too hard, you're going to crack it.
Right.
So there are things to be learned, but it's so satisfying, because we all know, we've all experienced the didgeridoo or Himalayan bowl, or a beautiful voice. The sound of our own voice actually is the most healing sound. If we can open that. Just a really quick story that I love this story. There was some guy going to indigenous community, speaking to the people about whatever he was speaking about. He thought he was done, and they wouldn't leave. And he looked at his interpreter, and he was like, "Oh, why aren't they leaving?" And she's like, "Well, they're waiting for you to sing." And he was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, yeah, they want to hear your heart. And he was like, oh, so really that's, really the key, when we sing, we heal our own hearts, I think, and this off key or on key, all this stuff, there's always a sound for somebody. And a lot of time in the shamanic work, at least the curandero that I worked with, that guy, he would go off key, and it would, I don't know if it was intentional or what, but when he did, you would be taken to a place so deep inside yourself that there was no other sound that could get there to unearth, whatever was, living there, because all our emotions are somatic. They just stay in the body until, we're ready to release them. So.
Yeah, and that's similar to the work that Roy Hart was saying, that a lot of people can't access those sounds until they, like you said, almost open up your heart or realize some of what you're holding on to. And by exploring some of these exercises that they would do, they would actually try to get you to access that stuff so you could make those sounds. And there were many tears in that class and many joyful, experiences. It was pretty fascinating.
I know,
to experience it.
It's wonderful,
It's quite a journey.
And that's why it's here, it's because it's so simple, and we're ready, to just this being in this format where many people might be able to, have a little bit more of an understanding of what it is and explore it. And, as my teacher, Don Conroe, the 86-year-old gong master, says, we have to create teachers who create teachers who create teachers, because we have to, have the 100th monkey thing where suddenly everybody wakes up and, all the guns are melted down into gongs and all those, this kind of, so.
That would be nice.
Well, Lea, do you have anything else you'd like to share with us before we go tonight?
Well, I guess, I would just like to, say thank you to the festival and to Michelle, and just the whole process with you guys, and everything has been so smooth. I can't tell you as an organizer how important that is, to just like everything was just like, yes, okay. I love that. I love that. So thank you. And I just also want to acknowledge all the people that made all this possible, because we don't do any of it ourselves. So I'm eternally grateful for Patrick and Kira and Brian and Dror and Barbara for just helping me put all this together once Michelle put the call out. So very grateful.
Well, we were very happy that you were able to come on with us at such short notice and do an interview with us tonight. I did want to mention before we go that you do have CDs of healing mantras and Icaros and sacred sound available on Bandcamp. Is that something that people can still access?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Sure.
You guys have done your homework.
We're gonna we'll put a link on the video here for people if they're interested in that. And then how else could people find you if they want to find out more about Sage Academy of Sound?
Well, they can go to my website, which is sageacademyofsound.com, or email me. Okay. Yeah, you can, and you can call me. I still pick up the phone sometimes.
Right, I know. It's so weird. We carry around these phones all the time, and very rarely do we actually talk on them. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lea, for joining us tonight and for your healing presence and all of your work. We just want to you're very welcome. We want to remind everyone before we go to please keep on checking out all of the amazing content that Hunter Mountain Film Festival has to offer at huntermountainfilmfestival.com. Lea Garnier's Garden Icaro will open the Hunter Mountain Film Festival this year, and we are also very grateful.
Well, Wayne, I think it's time to
roll the credits. Take care. Stay well. Peace, everyone. Bye-bye.